Got more updates for you. The elder transition. I feel like it's my place to talk about this. Daniel has been up here and he's done a really good job wherever he is. I don't even see that hand anymore. He's probably, there. You're not in your spot. That's why I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But I feel like at this point we're in the final stages of elder-led. We have been working toward this since before I came back to Northampton. So I came back in 2011. And they were already talking about we need to transition to elder-led, which is the case, the truth. And then we got really serious in 2016 and 17, and we began to write this, the Constitution and bylaws, and talk all this through. And what we discovered is that you can't be an elder-led church if you don't have elders. And that was kind of like, that's interesting. And so we pushed pause in 2017 and really began to focus on raising up elders. And so now, count up on your fingers and your toes. Since 2017 till now is about 7 years, give or take. COVID in there, it's probably been like 50 years is what it feels like. We talked yesterday that, is it just me or maybe it's you, that after 2020, like time is now in like this weird place. Like, I don't know if it's been 10 years ago or last week, it just feels like that. But so elder-led transition, we've been working with 4 to 5 guys in particular that really felt called to eldership, and they've gone through things like biblical eldership. They've gone through most of systematic theology. That sounds pretty impressive, doesn't it? They've also have memorized scripture. They've gone through real life discipleship. They have gone through a number of quizzes that have to do with who is God, who is Jesus, what is the Bible, those kind of things. They have did a comprehensive written test. I mean, this may sound overkill, but I'll tell you this. This has been my heart. I've been around a couple years in ministry. I know it doesn't look like it, but I've been around for since last century. I have been in ministry, and it sounds way more impressive to say that, but it's not. Since the 1900s, I have been in ministry, and so what I've discovered is there have been situations where churches have said to people, "You are an elder," and they say, "I'm an elder?" Okay, and have no idea what it means to be an elder, what the qualifications of being an elder, what the requirements of being an elder, actually walking above reproach and being an elder. And so I know some of you, especially some of the wives, are like, okay, it's about time to be done with this, right? Yes, but trust me that we have done our due diligence, especially on the front end, because we had to make all this up in the sense of what do we require of people that feel called to be an elder? And how do they weed themselves out in some ways? And because none of us feel like, you know what, I'm an elder. I sure am. You look at that, you're like, I don't measure up to that. And so how do we help them? So we've been putting all that stuff together, this whole process. We're calling it an accreditation process, the stuff that I went through to be ordained in the Christian and Missionary Alliance. I pulled from that in a sense, I don't know what your thought of us in the Christian Missionary Alliance, but that's beside the point. The point is that what we have done is the process that somebody would go through for 2 years to be accredited, to be ordained in a particular denomination. We are using that pathway for those that feel they're called to be elders. And so it's not just like, hey, you feel like being an elder? Sure, you like me, it's great. We're trying to vet it out because this is a big deal. We're moving from congregational rule to elder-led, which is a different form of government than this church has ever seen. We believe it's a biblical form of government. We believe that this is how we ought to be led. And to that end, and I will say this, in many ways, we've been led like that over many years. In other words, you come into an annual meeting, you come in we have a candidate that comes forth, and we're going to hire this person as a youth pastor or something. What they normally do is people will sit in this room and they'll hear him speak, or they'll go through the different stuff, and they'll say, well, you guys have done all the work, and we trust you to. You say that he's a good person. You say this is a good thing. We trust you. It's the same kind of thing, and even more so that the bar is being raised spiritually. Not that we didn't care about our official board and the requirements for the official board, but we look at Scripture, and there are clear clear requirements and expectations of an elder, and we can hold people to that standard and say, look, and even with our deacons are now going to be, we call them directors in our context, but those that are leading ministries, like our care team and our hospitality team and our worship team, they're going to be raised up to those standards and say, if you're going to lead out in this way, you're not just like, hey, we feel like you should be in that position. Are you called to be a deacon? Are you called to invest spiritually in this group and oversee this group? And so, again, we're working toward health in all of these areas, and this is why we're doing it. You see the insert real quick? I know we're taking way more time than I expected, but I want to make sure that this is clear because we're driving to a point. Insert here, these are the 3 so far that are going to be put forth as elder candidates at our annual meeting. The way that it will work going forward is that elders will appoint elders. And I know that sounds like, well, that doesn't sound right. Well, you think of Scripture, that's how it was done. There is accountability from the congregation to the elders. There's an open door. It's not like, hey, we're going to do what we want. I tell the elders, that we call them delders affectionately, because they're not deacons, but they're not quite elders. They're somewhere in the middle, that you need to smell like sheep, because that means you need to hang out in a farmhouse, but you need to be with people. Like, we don't sit in a room and just like make decisions. Like, it's about leading from a place of humility, leading from a place of service, and that's where we're driving toward. And so there is that open door and say, hey, something doesn't seem right, elders. What's going on? It's not the like, hey, we got this. That there's mutual accountability that will happen, and you'll see all that stuff in the, at least in part, in the bylaws. But Jeff Woods, John Fisher, Daniel Zinzo, that's what I was going to say, and this is going way longer. That they won't be voted on in the sense that they'll be put forth like this, even going forward. The next time there's an elder candidate, they'll say, here's the elder candidates. They have been vetted out. They have been accredited. They've gone through the process. These are the ones that we would put forth. If you have any concerns, if you have any questions, if you have any hesitations, you need to talk to the elders and say, hey, we've got a lot of concerns about that person. Okay, let's have that conversation. Let's work this out. Let's figure it out. Because in the end of it, by the time that we go to vote, or the time that we go to appoint, that's the right word, they will be appointed if there's no issues, because we have done hopefully our due diligence on our side to say they're really good fakers if they get to that point and get to the accreditation and we find them to be approved. So Don Connor is also in the process of that. He's not on here yet because he still has yet to jump through a couple different things he still needs to do. And I would say, too, if God may be calling you to be an elder, that we have a page on the website. Go to the website. It is full of information. There's videos. We did 2 or 3 years ago a series on biblical church leadership. That's the word. Talking about elders, talking about deacons. Like, you have plenty of stuff there. The bylaws and constitution are on the website. You can go there. You can read all 40-some pages of it if you'd like. It's super fun, and it was really fun to create. It was. Daniel played a huge role in that, and in a good way. And so I encourage you to go there. There's a couple copies in the back. If you say, I want to get a hold of one, you can do that. So what the goal would be, the heart would be, if you have any questions about any of this process, I have concerns, I have questions, I need clarification, please talk to me, talk to one of the delders at this point, say, hey, we need to have a meeting. If something begins to, we hear like, wow, we need to talk about this at a larger level, we will plan something that, let's get everybody in the same room and have this conversation. Because the hope is, and the heart is, that on May 19th, which is our annual meeting, we will come into this room and we'll talk about the budget, and that'll be approved, but then we'll talk about this elder-led transition, and we'll vote on it, because the congregation will have to vote to say we want to make this transition. And my hope is that on May 19th, all of your questions will be answered, all your concerns, all your clarifications will happen in this next month. Because what's difficult is we sit in this room and like, I got a question. What if? I don't know what ifs, I don't know. But we can have those conversations now. So I'm giving you kind of a forewarning, not that you've got to be quiet when we come to the meeting, but hopefully you hear my heart. Let's have those conversations now. Let's get clarity on that now. If we need to change something, alter something, clarify something, let's do that now. It happened in the board meeting. Had questions like, well, this sounds like that. We made the change. Again, it's not like there's no dictatorship. It's definitely a plurality, and we're moving toward a plurality of leadership across the board in Northampton. So if you're part of a team, we want that to be led in plurality, that we don't just want somebody to say, I'm the director, do what I say, but they build a team. So that the model that we have at the elder level goes down to all the levels of things that we do. My point is, it shouldn't be a surprise what we're doing. It's not like last week we announced it, and by the way, we're voting next week. We've been talking about this for years, and I hope that you trust that we have done our due diligence to qualify men who will be elders in this church. And that's what probably was going to say, but I don't think I finished saying. If you feel called, God might be kind of stirring in you that maybe you should consider elder leadership in the church. We need more elders, and we know that it's going to be a process. That it's not going to be like, hey, now that we got the process figured out, just come on in and it'll be all right. Like, we're talking a year or two from now before you would even be accredited. So we want to start that process with some other people before we get too far into it.